There's no denying that sunscreen's important. In fact, using a sunscreen with an SPF level of 15 or higher a day is enough to reduce your risk of developing skin cancers, such as melanoma, by 50%. However, researchers have recently made some important discoveries that may cast sunscreen in a new light.
More specifically, findings from a new report seem to indicate that certain chemicals from common sunscreen brands may potentially be absorbed by your body's skin, and from there, they might even find their way into your bloodstream. Is this a sign that we should change our habits when it comes to how much sunscreen we use?
Before we answer that question, be sure to subscribe to Bestie and ring the notification bell. Also, support our channel by watching until the end.
According to the findings from this recent report, there is some new information which suggests that sunscreen could have the potential to be dangerous. This is because certain ingredients found within sunscreen can be absorbed by a person's skin, traveling through the skin layer and even going as far as entering a person's bloodstream.
For this particular study, 24 healthy human participants were used to test the effects of 4 different varieties of sunscreen, 2 in the form of sprays, 1 lotion, and 1 cream. Each sunscreen was applied 4 times per day for 4 days, with participants slathering sunscreen onto 75% of their body's surface. Afterwards, FDA scientists took blood samples from the participants to study. The researchers tested the samples for the presence of 4 specific ingredients found in sunscreen: avobenzone, oxybenzone, icamsol, and octocrylene. According to the results of their findings, a significant amount of these 4 substances found their way into the bloodstreams of these participants.
As you might expect, this discovery has raised some concerns regarding the use of sunscreen. However, this discovery is still a fairly new development, and as such, some of the details surrounding the findings are still not entirely concrete. According to one editorial made to accompany the initial report, there is a particular concern over the hypothesis that these bloodborne chemicals found in sunscreen may potentially have a negative effect on a person's reproductive or developmental health, and may even be linked to the onset of cancer.
So, what does all of this mean? Is it time to throw out all of our sunscreens, boycott the companies that make it, and take our chances out in the sun without protection? Well, probably not. Before we blow things out of proportion, there are a few things to consider in regards to this report and its implications.
For starters, there's the fact that the study involved with this report was relatively small in size. After all, 24 people is pretty tiny by sample standards, and the actual research only followed the effects of sunscreen just a few days after regular use. The other thing to consider is that the findings of this study do not suggest one way or another whether the ingredients from sunscreen are truly dangerous. Instead, it merely suggests that there could potentially be some concerns involved. But more research and scientific investigation will be required before we know for sure. In the words of the report's actual authors, the systemic absorption of sunscreen ingredients supports the need for further studies to determine the clinical significance of these findings.
What the report does suggest, however, is that the manufacturers of different sunscreens should put more scrutiny into the testing and the safety of the products they make. And that means putting more safety testing into effect. According to the report's accompanying editorial, despite multiple efforts by the FDA to persuade sunscreen manufacturers to conduct key safety studies, the manufacturers have failed to produce such data, forcing the FDA to conduct its own studies.
So before you hastily start to throw out all of your sun protection, stop and consider the fact that we still don't know one way or the other whether your sunscreen supply actually poses a threat to your health. In fact, until we do have a definite answer one way or another, you should probably still continue to make a habit of using sunscreen.
According to dermatologists who have weighed in on the issue, making sure your skin is adequately protected from the sun's rays is still essential to your health, regardless of the new uncertainty surrounding sunscreen and its ingredients. As we said at the beginning, adequate sunscreen coverage reduces your risk of skin cancer by half, meaning that it's a must-have for safety if you're going to be spending a lot of time outdoors this summer.
That's right. According to dermatologists, such as Dr. Neolani Gonzalez, there is still no concrete evidence which would indicate that the ingredients highlighted in this report pose any definite threat to your health. So at this time of writing, sunscreen's potential to benefit your health currently outweighs the potential for negative results.
If you're seriously concerned about some of the ingredients found within sunscreen, you can always potentially use sun protection products that use physical or mineral blockers such as zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Unlike chemical blockers, these physical and mineral blockers are not absorbed by your skin, which makes them quote-unquote safer if that's your concern. But seriously, if you're gonna be out in the sun, make sure you still continue to commit to your sunscreen routine. Don't forget to rub some behind your ears.
So, did you find this video informative? What are your thoughts on this new information regarding sunscreen? At this time of writing, this report is still a fairly new discovery, so we'd be interested in hearing everyone's first impressions. If you have something to add or contribute to the discussion of this topic, be sure to scroll down to the comment section below and help us keep the conversation going.
Enjoyed this video? Hit like, share, and subscribe to Bestie. Wait! What kind of bestie are we if we don't tell you about our other awesome videos? Go ahead, choose the left or right video and enjoy.